All right, guys. Yeah, so I am totally just lounged out here a little bit. Coach Sam,
talking about our kids program.
Talking about our kids. No, we are in our kids' room. As we mentioned last week, we're kind of in a little bit of a transition phase in a couple of our areas around the gym, and so we're just finding space to record these things because we've yet to find the right recipe anyways. So we're just trying new things. Yeah. So we've taken a couple of episodes off in what we've been talking about around training and that, and we've had a couple of guests actually on our podcast. So we had Bill Dill from MyoFit STL was on with me last week. He's going to be offering some new athletic therapy services within our facility. And then I got to host Corey Smallwood from sorry, I wanted to say Girls on the Run. And I was like, that's not correct at all. But Pink Ribbon Girls, so they're a local organization that we're supporting for breast cancer awareness. One little plug there, we do have our PRG for CrossFit workout coming up this Saturday, October 22nd. We still have spots remaining. I know I've been seeing them fill in a little bit at a time here though, but we have, what time are those eats? 7:30?
7:30
and then
8:45.
Yeah, so we have two different options there. So if you're an early riser, you want to come 7:30, great. If you want to sleep in a little bit, come at 8:45. I think we have spots in both classes. You get a t-shirt. It's a sponsored t-shirt from us and Sarah Honda and one of the local Edward Jones reps as well. And it's $35. That covers your workout and your t-shirt, and that's all donation. That goes directly to the organization. And so there's no we just want to raise as many funds as possible. If you want to just get a t-shirt, you can also do that. And you're like, hey, I don't like this whole workout idea. I just want to kind of get a t-shirt and support. You can do that for $25. You can get a t-shirt. We have those here on site. So if you need one, if you're not in the area and you want to buy one and we can get it done, it's great. Easy through PayPal and Venmo and everything else. And we'll happily pay for the shipping to ship it to you. So anyways, those are kind of what's going on or what's been going on in our last couple episodes. But this week, we are kind of circling back to the training side of things. And we've mentioned this in past episodes around the difference between strength cycles and focuses. Man, Coach, you are so much higher than me right now. I'm not going to look up a coach.
It's 0% awkward to look down.
Yeah. So, so we've talked a little bit about the difference between why, what strength cycles are, why we have movement focuses in our group CrossFit programming. We just wrapped up a movement focus on the clean in our last 6-week kind of little cycle that we had, or focus session that we had. And now we're moving into an overhead press focus. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity as we're moving into a new focus to allow Coach to kind of explain what this is all going to look like, the purpose behind it, and kind of how this is going to benefit maybe each kind of category in our fitness for our general population that are working in our group CrossFit. So we'll kind of ask questions as we go, but maybe you can give us like a general summary.
That was a nice narrow
question. Right, general summary overall on what's happening for the next timeline.
I have been involved in CrossFit for the last 12 and change years. I know that you have a little bit longer than that. Millie, I don't know exactly what our timeline is, but I know it's
like 8 to 9.
Yeah, it's been a while.
14 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree the most hated movement in any CrossFit gym is the strict overhead press.
Yeah.
It is never, it's obviously it's not a fan favorite. This isn't me going like, I like to make people do things they hate. No. But no, I believe that most of that misunderstanding comes from a lack of progress, and that lack of progress comes from a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And so we are going to take on one of our more challenging and one of the bigger holes in the average CrossFitter, and with the overhead press. And so with some of the new stuff that we've kind of implemented, or more, I shouldn't say new stuff, kettlebells aren't new and all that, but more kettlebell volume, it already kind of started to attack the real common weak point, which tends to be in the upper and mid back as a supporting piece of the puzzle. So we're already on an upswing there. I had members starting to tell me that their push-ups were starting to feel better. And for me, I'm just like, right on schedule.
Yeah.
Right on. This is awesome. And they're like, yeah, my push-ups are just doing really well. I was like, wonder why. I know why.
Right.
But it's cool that it's all coming together and that we're starting to get enough of that. We're getting to some of that tipping point. So I was like, this is the perfect time now to take on that position and to really kind of let's see what we can do with some real focus. Again, I've also never been in a gym that actually spent time focusing on the push press.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, on the strict press.
Yeah.
Because they were like, well, the people don't like, oh, they don't really like it that much, or this, that, or the other. So they just move them on to push press, or we'll just do jerks, and it's basically the same thing. And it's really not.
Yeah.
To build your press is to build your push press and to build your push jerk potential.
Yes.
It does not work backwards though.
Yeah.
So the reality is there's the upstream effect that we want to get out of that. But then there's, like I said, I really wanted to take on a very common weakness if we're going to look at the 360 degrees of an athlete.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like the overhead press is the air squat of the presses, right? Like you got to be able to, overhead press well, and not just meaning like a lot of weight, meaning like appropriately in the right mechanical movement. What you got to be able to do that well. That's the baseline to be able to push press well, to be able to push jerk well or split jerk well, like any of the overhead pressing strengths or skills all set at the overhead press itself.
100%. That is the base of your pyramid there.
Yeah,
on your ability to have capacity overhead. And then the other piece of the puzzle, it's also one of our most incomplete ranges of motions, just due to the average mobility of the average human that's working on a computer, or if they're not on a computer, they're on a phone, and it's all like, so it's been a position that you see has only deteriorated over the course of the last 12 years for me, not for like myself, but like what I've observed. What I've observed is that it has deteriorated as the world has become more and more demandingly digital, demanding sitting time, like our iPhones are not optional, right, for this career field.
Right. Like
it's just not. So that was another reason why I felt it valuable to take this on. Yeah. So you make a good point. So, for the listener or for the viewer here, if you're thinking about this, like, what do you mean by the range of motion? Is like the ability to actually reach your arm completely overhead into what we would call a full range of motion. So, if I go to put something up on a shelf, or I go to bring something down from a shelf, like that ability to raise my arms overhead while being able to stabilize my midline and have a good shoulder position, like it is lacking. And so when we attack a movement like the overhead press, which, for the person that's listening and not really done a visual, like taking a load from the shoulder to an overhead locked out position with a straight arm, safely and effectively, range of motion is huge there. And we find that, it is commonplace. I very seldom, when I do a movement screen with a client or a new person, like almost always I'm going to find a limitation in overhead movement. Yeah. It's really uncommon. They've had some really good coaching beforehand, to be honest, if they don't. Right. Like that's been my experience. Yeah, for anecdotal. Sure. So the overhead press obviously is going to be the kind of the strength focused piece. Okay. Yeah. And so I think we've already kind of hit on a little bit. So like if you're someone who's new to CrossFit, or maybe you're not, or maybe you're just kind of embarking on this fitness journey for the first time, or maybe you've been doing fitness somewhere else, but maybe CrossFit is kind of coming along, and so you want to get stronger. So first and foremost, if strength is a goal of yours to improve, this is going to be a perfect scenario where we're going to work on improving overhead pressing strength. So your ability to move a load from your shoulder to overhead and increase your strength. When that happens just from the actual dynamic movement is great, but it's also going to increase your shoulder stability and your overall like shoulder joint strength as well. If you're someone who's looking to improve performance, we already hit the nail on the head talking about the push press and push jerk. Yeah, like we need healthy shoulders, like they take a beating in the competitive realm. Yes. And so if you, and again, we've talked about like finding gaps in people's game a little bit. We talked about that in the accessory programming episode that we talked about, but like, if you want to improve performance on Fran, you want to know what makes thrusters easier? A stronger overhead press. Correct. And that's twofold. That is the strength to actually push something overhead, but it's also the strength to hold the position through the squat. Yeah, absolutely. It's the structure. Yeah, your structural integrity at that piece of the puzzle, and the way we're training it will really feed that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think those are hitting the nail on the head, like that client understanding, like, well, what does this benefit me? And then if you're the general fitness client that you just, hey, I'm just doing this for general health and functionality, taking something, and if I could like reverse this a little bit, like
the bench press has always been this popular
Yep.
movement in the general gym scene. And while we want you to be strong in the bench press as well, the functionality of the bench press, I always term it like this: if I'm having to lay on my back and press something off my shoulders, I just got my butt kicked by something. So that being said,
It's the less common scenario.
right, but taking something from a functional standpoint, if I'm going to try to improve function, taking something from my shoulders and bringing it overhead to either place it onto a shelf or help somebody lift something up, or heaven forbid, catch something coming down. Okay, because that's the other alternative there. The overhead press is massively going to improve that function over a lot of other pressing movements.
It has a lot more carryover than it gets credit for.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Just from a new mom or just a parent point of view, we spend so much time hunched, holding our babies, feeding our babies, lifting up our babies. I'm excited for this because it's going to allow strength to open up your chest and postural muscle strength, which we don't even think about a lot of times, but that's just a kind of another huge benefit that I'm looking forward to, because I spend so much time now.
As I look and see what their shoulder positions are looking like right now as they sit down. I just finished it ever since, of course, I've been sitting like this so much.
Way to show us up, Sam.
So obviously the overhead press is the focus. Anything else that will kind of come into play over the time that we're working on?
So we are also going to put in a horizontal press. But we're going to go with the push-up.
Cool.
Again, another very common pain point. A very common pain point for the average person that just walks in the street. I always use the Walmart example. Most people in Walmart cannot do a good push-up.
Yeah.
That's an important, if we're going to be functional humans, that's a really important, maybe, you're not going to do a million push-ups in life, but the inability to do that highlights a lot of very basic and fundamental gaps.
Yeah.
To be able to maintain your posture through that range of motion, to connect your shoulders to your hips, to your left, to your lower extremities, general pressing strength, and just understanding. And then as we get into more like the CrossFitter, well, everybody wants to do a handstand push-up.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do muscle ups. And you have to have a good, strong press. Like a junky push-up is going to prevent you from even getting into a junky handstand push-up.
Sure.
Like you have to have that. You have to have command of that position for most of what we do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that you made a connection to. I want to highlight is the connection between your arms, like your upper body, to your hips and to your legs, like that full body connection across the board. That, like, we talk about functional movement, everything that we do has that full body connection.
We don't have an athletic endeavor that doesn't require that coordination, which is, for my money, the best definition of core strength I've ever heard. Your ability to coordinate your lower and upper extremities. Yeah.
So, and what better way to actually hone in on that or to focus on that in such a simple movement like the push-up. Okay. So, then, and we talk about this from a performance perspective. Like if you want to be better, like there's a perfect example of let's take a classic CrossFit workout that, with Cindy, right? So we got 5, 10, 15. JT. Oh my gosh. Let's not talk about JT. But a simple workout, simple body weight workout like Cindy, well, a good chunk of that workout involves push-ups, right?
Yeah. If you've ever done it and you have the capacity to move for 20 minutes, you're going to feel like you're doing push-ups for 20 minutes.
The whole time, right? And so like from a performance perspective, like just like anything else, if you want to get better at like the fast-paced CrossFit style workouts, whether that's for performance or that's capacity, and just like you like the GPP, general physical preparedness type, like capacity work, well, then you got to work on push-ups in a skill setting.
Absolutely.
It's no different than if we have, say, I hate to throw out another girl workout, like Annie, I just did it the other day, so I'm thinking about that, but like it's 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 and double unders, right?
Yep.
But like if I don't have base level skills in the jump rope, then I'm never going to actually be able to perform at capacity of a higher level skill. So you got the push up there. Anything else like from maybe from the conditioning side of things that we'll see in the next,
so something we've been just starting to do, or we're starting to do a little bit more of, and I just think that the workouts have been like wildly successful, is a lot more of these small rep, high round counts, like every 90 seconds for 10 rounds, where it's like 5, 5, and 5, like what we did like last week, where we had the 5, what was it?
Oh, kettlebell work though. Yeah.
No, it was
Toes to bar.
It was 5 toes to bar, 5
I made my contribution there.
Something-
Was there a kettlebell involved?
Was it?
I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I might be thinking about the week before with some,
We have too much
It
doesn't-
programming in our.
It doesn't really
Doesn't
matter.
really
It doesn't
matter.
really matter. Like,
whatever we did,
so it was
some
five,
short reps in it.
So it was 5 toe to bar. We're gonna pretend it was 5 sandbag squats. I know that's not the answer, but 5 sandbag squats and then
Yeah.
5 shuttle runs.
Oh, yeah.
So we really got to hone in on like really being snappy and crisp on that toe to bar because everyone got the opportunity to work in such a small rep scheme, but the overall volume of the day was like any other.
Yeah.
So I've really been enjoying what our athletes are able to do. Like, it's really hard to marry building skill and adapting to higher intensity
So that's a good point.
at the
So,
same time. I
yeah,
should
so-
say, in the same like rep scheme.
yeah, so explain that to the listener, like, what's the importance of that, like, that every 90 and that like that repeated hit? I think you just hit on it. Like, one, if we say we take the same workout and we say, hey, there's gonna be 15 toe to bar per round, these shuttle runs and something else. A lot of times, because of the individual volume that one set of toes to bar is, then we end up having to like either scale or adjust, or then like, or our ability deteriorates to work on the skill because the volume is too high.
Correct.
But what you're saying is by creating these short rep sets, what it's done is it's allowing the athlete to work in a very finite amount of time, but almost perfect the skill of the movement without hitting the fatigue factor. But over time, they're getting this volume
Exactly.
piece.
So it's kind of like the difference between making 20-pound jumps or making 5-pound jumps every time. Those 5-pound jumps, while they can add up to the same place, it feels much smoother.
Yes.
The fatigue layers into a workout like this, like 5-pound jumps. Every single round, you're only a little bit more tired. You're not like way more tired going into the second round,
Mhm.
and you're not way more tired than that going. So every time you get on the total bar, you're in a very different place. You're in a very similar place, just a little more tired every time. And what the adaptations that I'm seeing are just really, really like surpassed what I was hoping for.
Yeah. So, and I think one of the things I think about is like for the beginner, okay, for the beginner, like if I said, hey, we're
Small
doing
bites.
15 toes to bar today, and even if I'm scaling it right, okay, we're going to do hanging knee raises or whatever else. They're going 15. Gosh, I can't even hang on to this bar for 10. I'm gonna have to break this up into 5 rep sets anyways. Well, guess what they get to do? They get to actually put into a manageable chunk for them to focus on the new skill that they're working on. But let's fast forward to the skillful CrossFitter, and we got somebody right now doing, one of our coaches is doing the Wadapalooza qualifier. Well, guess what they get to do? They're on an entirely different perspective, but they get to work on perfecting the
Yes.
skill
We get to be sharp.
part, and they work on sharpening their skills. Like, hey, today I want you to actually focus on keeping your toes together this entire time during the kip. And so all 5 reps should be perfect for you because you already know the skill, but now we're fine tuning the skill in these small chunks that they get to like. And I really like workouts like that because in the 10 rounds, like usually you find your sweet spot around like round 5 or 6
Yes.
because you've actually improved your flow. But again, that's
You've learned.
totally a performance thing. But they get this overall volume that is still contributing to their capacity that they need for maybe these higher level workouts
Yeah.
that they're gonna do later on down
Yeah,
the
I
road.
mean, Allie, she just PR'd that workout by 50 something seconds.
Yeah.
While
From
maintaining the integrity of the movement.
Yes.
Right.
yeah,
When's the
the-
last time she did that workout?
20, it was somewhere in 2020.
Yeah,
less
so
than 2 years ago.
let's just explain this too, by the way, like, we do benchmark workouts occasionally. Allie just did one of the benchmarks, Jackie, right, is what she just did. And, Allie hasn't gotten there by doing Jackie once a week for the last 2 years. She's gotten there from general fitness improvement through a lot of different skill development pieces that have honed in and brought together.
That was my
Your leg just fell. Brought together
the things we said.
the skills that were needed for a very basic benchmark workout. I think that's the other thing is some people feel like you gotta do, the whole point of CrossFit is actually to get good at a lot of different things that bring other things up, right?
Correct.
So like the constant variability is bringing up these other skills so that when you go to test the waters again, you're so much higher along the
And to me, that's a big mark of the difference between varied and random. Is that
Absolutely.
varied feeds.
Yeah.
Varied feeds the next evolution of variance.
yeah, okay.
And random things
Random is
happen.
random.
Random things happen when we're random.
Yeah, anything else on the conditioning side or skill side that we could see in the next, and
I mean, a lot of long runs.
Yeah,
outside.
a lot of long runs outside. It's getting a little warmer outside now, so we are gonna have a lot of long runs outside.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
no, we will see some like different things kind of in place to where we may normally do runs. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that, we can run whenever. I was like, yeah, but is it really a great idea to hop outside in 30 degrees and run? And
Yeah,
we can get the job done other ways.
yeah.
That's more effective. It's probably going to be more beneficial to our athletes.
Well, we really see, that does happen with the season, and I don't know why we have some 400-meter runs in the programming, I believe. But it's one of those things where it's like we actually luck out because it's going to be in the 50s, 60s, and 70s tomorrow.
Yep.
Because again, it was 26 on Monday, but now it will be 80 on Saturday. That's pretty normal for Midwest.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll start to see the bikes, come into play, the rowers come into play a little bit more.
Yeah, you may see weeks where
We're not ineffective at keeping people in shape in the winter time.
No, that we have not struggled with that. But yeah, so we'll see some different stuff, like, just different playing around with some different stuff in lieu of some where we may play some running that's going to be like really like low intensity type stuff.
Yeah.
Low box overs sometimes, it's something we've used in the past. I feel like it's been successful. That's like high rep. It's like, man, I'm on here for like 2 minutes. Like, this is in place of.
Oh gosh, I gotta send you a workout that I sent.
If this was,
Something like that.
well, if this was in the summer, this would have been a 400-meter run.
Yes. So I think you make a good point there. I think sometimes people look at the exercise that they're doing. On our level as programmers, we look at the stimulus or the response that we're looking for. And so we can accomplish that stimulus, or we can accomplish the response from the body a lot of different ways. And so that can be, like you said, like, okay, well, what kind of what is the 400-meter run actually doing to heart rate, doing to breathing, doing, like, what are we looking for? Well, no, I'm looking for a monostructural exercise. That would be the category we're looking for, that is going to elicit a heart rate response in zone 3 to zone 4. How can I accomplish that through this different skill? And I mean, we get this even like with our mover workouts that we do. So sometimes I think some people might see like an exercise go away or like leave for a little while and another one trickle in. And one, that creates that whole variability in your training. But two, sometimes they don't realize that, like, we're just looking for a certain response of the body. And I can accomplish that. There's a lot of ways to, well, I don't know if it's an appropriate phrase still to say skin the cat, but there are a lot of ways. I don't skin any cats. I don't even own them, but there's a lot of ways to accomplish that
Just
goal.
their skins.
And so what people will see sometimes is they'll see some changes to the implements that we use,
Yeah, so I look
all
at it,
geared around accomplishing the same goals.
yeah, I look at it more as this is a vehicle for,
Correct.
and the answer to 4 is way more important than the actual name of the
Right.
exercise.
Yeah. So you kind of nailed that down. Like, there's a difference between, like, why are we doing overhead presses? Well, it's to increase our overhead strength or increase our body's ability to maintain proper upper body, upper back positioning or whatever else. Why are we doing kettlebell presses? Same. It's just a different vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
And it's another angle to look at the same thing from, and to really understand one implement, you have to at least generally understand all of them.
yeah, for sure.
Because that gives you the 360-degree view of the press.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? I mean, this was great. I think that, like, and this is something that we're going to try to do a little bit more often when we come to like kind of a shift in where we're going. Again, it's not a cycle. It's just a focus. And
What are we doing right now?
right. And the difference there too, what's most important is that people understand that, like, this is not random. This is varied, but it is also one of those things where, like, that variability, I always tell a client, like, there's a method to the madness here. And so there's always this, like, and I always like it because we kind of get to peel back the curtain in Coach Sam's brain a little bit.
Terrifying place.
Which it is. But gosh, this stuff does not come lightly. I think that it's the thought process that go through. And I just know the back end work that you do and the research and just like, this is where you geek out. This is where you love to be. And so
it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into it. If you ever have like a question around this, like the why behind it. Now, here's what I will say. Maybe make sure you have a place to sit down and bring Coach Sam like an extra banana or something to eat in the process, because he might get into a dissertation, but he can explain it all to you. He can tell you every little piece of the puzzle. So if you want to know, if you're one of those people like, I want to dig in and know why, he's your guy to ask. Now, if you're like, hey, just tell me what to do, then like maybe don't ask Coach Sam, because he'll tell you, he might spend a little time with you, but it's because you're so knowledgeable on this stuff.
That, and I don't feel like I've given a good answer unless I've given a complete answer.
For sure. Yeah.
And to give you with half the information and leaving the rest of it for interpretation, I didn't really do your time justice. And I approach the same thing. I don't ever ask somebody for information if I'm not willing to sit down for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's my personality.
Yeah, and again, all the questions that we have so much about, like, it depends. We're actually gonna do a Q&A session next week, and we've already had a lot of questions come in, and I love that. I don't even know if we'll have time to get through all of them, so we might do a part 2. There's a lot of them, but so much of the answers that we have are it depends.
Yes.
And whether it depends on goals, it depends on the person, like all those things. But there are some general answers that we have. But again, like these types of episodes, we want to be able to provide, so we can kind of give you some base level kind of like, here's the overall theme that we're looking at over the next few weeks. Now this will kind of run about 6 weeks. Is that right?
I would say we'll be between 6 and 8 sessions.
6 and 8. Yeah. Okay.
6 and 8 sessions on this one. Just I've got some ideas that we're going to kind of float into our in-between weeks and stuff like that I think can probably trim it down.
That's what I love about programming. I think I was telling my wife the other day about this. It's like, I still love programming because programming is our way of experimenting a little bit.
Yeah. It's always a lab.
Yeah. And so like one thing, we'll never nail it down. I was thinking about this, like the 10,000 hour rule. I have 10,000 hours accumulated in exercise programming and things like that. It's guaranteed. That being said, I don't think I'll ever be a master, because you're never a master, because every program that you write and every workout that you create will be different for each person that does it. And I think it's the thing that keeps me interested is it's always this learning process, either of myself or the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've got some things I want to try. Like you.
Exactly. It's like there's a combination of what are the absolutes, what is the package you're going to present it in. And just different, again, how long are we going to do this? How short, there's so many different things. And just also think about all the things that we know that we don't know about the human body.
Constant involvement of the science behind the human body, and how we move and how we progress. It's always evolving.
Yeah.
The study of the human body is so young, and the study of exercise actually is so young. Like we're talking, it's 100-ish years. Like at this point, like it's so minimal.
It's in its infancy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're just finally getting to a point in human evolution.
Right.
And like I'm talking very recent, that we have the luxury to study these sorts of things. We don't have to figure out what to do about smallpox anymore. So like these things, like
I'm really trying to get my quads bigger, and the other guy's going like, yeah,
I'm trying to cure
I have
cancer.
smallpox.
I'm trying to cure cancer. So like I said, there's just so much that we don't know. But what's cool is because we have people working like this, Cal Dietz is an example. He's a human that I look up to in a major way in this realm, in terms of how he treats all this stuff. And we're going to have all this data to apply to once we finally do start to get those answers. Because my hope is that within 10 years, you will see good coaches, good programmers, good people who are good at this will be based around nervous system regulation and hormone response. And that's the type of stuff, like when we can get there and like understanding how this stuff all affects and impacts that, not just what we think it does.
Yeah.
That's whenever like programming is going to become a really wild place and just a really incredible. I just hope I'm around for it, to be honest. Because that's where I hope things are going. That's where I see things going. You see people, more, it's becoming easier and easier for me to sell the idea of breath work being important and all that sort of stuff. And that is nervous system regulation. And then everything else is, it's hormone response. So I'm really excited about how much further we have to go.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know that our population, like our community here, have like any idea how fortunate they are to have someone so involved in like I just know it's a personal involvement for you.
Yeah, it's
separately than it is like just like this isn't just your job that you program workouts for. Like this is something that you're highly invested in. And I think sometimes our stuff is maybe a little bit ahead, honestly.
Yeah.
Than what some other right. And but like I just don't know that people realize how fortunate we are to have that mind doing the work there.
Like you said,
So,
I mean, yeah, I mean, the other reality is because of this, I get to get the data back,
Yeah.
I get to get data back at a much higher rate than if I only had 10 athletes to program for.
for sure, for sure. Well, thanks for sharing, Coach, today. Next week, we're gonna do our Q&A session. I haven't decided if do we want to do that live or do and allow people into the Zoom, or just want to I think we have enough questions at this point that I don't know that we could.
I would say we do one that's closed.
Yeah.
Maybe if we have a couple straggler questions, we can do a live and answer those while
Yeah.
people tune in.
Yeah, so next week we're gonna record this guy, but it's all gonna be Q&A. So we're just gonna have questions. We're gonna try to answer them. And the cool thing about the panel of coaches that we have here is we all have a little bit different backgrounds. Number one, levels of experience in where our niches are as well. But that's really helpful. So if you have questions on nutrition, we have Millie, who's one of our nutrition coaches here. If you have questions on amputee training, just so you know, we've got Coach Sam here. Oh, it's this guy, right? But if you got questions on, honestly, training older adults, that's something that I've done a ton of. We've had some questions on just some general training questions as well. So all of us are going to probably chime in and answer where we feel best suited, but we'll try to get through as many as we can. If we don't get through all of them, we'll have another episode that we do that on, a little bit further along the way. Yeah.
It's easy.
But that's what we're gonna do next week, and look forward. If you guys still have questions on any of this stuff, you can email us info@crossfit-metroeast.com. You can hit us up on any of our social media channels, and you can at Sam Schaefer 1 on Instagram, at Mrs. Patterson, at the Coach Josh. Send us if you send me a DM on Instagram and ask me a question and I don't get to your questions because I don't even know how to work DMs on Instagram. So,
I do know how to work that one.
But
not
Sam would be great at that probably.
Facebook, however, that's a graveyard.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
graveyard for messages.
but as we get those questions, we'll get those answered and just enjoy doing this stuff. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Coach, letting us know about what's coming up. And we'll see you guys next week. Sign up for our PRG for CrossFit workout, or sign up to get a shirt, and we'll get that to you and support our Pink Ribbon Girls.
Which is what PRG means, by the way.
Pink Ribbon Girls.
I learned that at 12:34 today.
Congrats,
when you said PRG earlier, I was like,
just blowing,
I've never heard this phrase.
Yeah,
I've never heard this terminology.
just blowing minds over here. So, all right, guys, take care. We'll see you next week.